Hello and welcome. My name is Alan, and today we're going to be talking about Russia and Ukraine. Yes, it is a bit late, but I figured we'd go ahead and discuss this since it's been one of the biggest things going on in a while. Essentially, Russia invaded Ukraine, which used to be a part of the USSR. It was one of the states that became one of the territories that became its own country. Now, there has been a lot of push for Putin. He's wanting to try to reunite a lot of the territory that was Russia under the USSR. And so he's already went in several parts of Ukraine, and he's made into recognized free states that what he believes to be free states, Luhansk and Donetsk. They've been able to do some damage and really hurt the exterior border between Russia and Ukraine. They've freed Luhansk and Donetsk, and they see them as independent territories, which they're two of the little countries that are supposed to be on the border between Ukraine and Russia. Now, he's also put extreme pressure. The fighting has even gotten to the second biggest city in Ukraine, Kharkiv. He's surrounded the capital of Kiev before, but yeah, there is already a belief that up to 500,000 refugees have fled for neighboring countries since Russia invaded on the 24th of February. And this is straight from the UN, the United Nations. So yeah, it's even said that they've got a figure here of 34,600 have moved onward to other European countries. So there are a lot of people fleeing Ukraine during the Russian invasion. So there is some serious effects going on here. Russia has been attacking the Ukraine so heavily that a lot of it's in rubble. I think they will eventually end their invasion, but I think they just want to try to prove a point, and they'll happily take Luhansk and Donetsk, because they already had Crimea separate from Ukraine. And one of the things is they unblocked a river flowing through Ukraine into Crimea. So yeah, there's quite a bit that's been going on. Let's take a look here. This is according to Reuters.com, or Reuters, however you wish to pronounce it. In December of 2021, Russia builds up forces near Ukraine. So they've been planning this for a while. Then in January 2022, Ukraine gets weapons from the U.S., the Baltic states, and others. On February the 3rd, Moscow shuts down the German broadcaster's Russian operations in a retaliatory move. February the 10th, Russia holds drills in Belarus. February the 14th, President Volodymyr Zelensky says Ukraine will persist with its goal of joining NATO, which is said to be one of the big reasons Putin went ahead and performed this invasion. February the 21st, Russia recognizes breakaway regions. These are the regions I have already mentioned, Donetsk and Luhansk. So yeah. But they're really probably just Russian puppet states, to be honest. Also on the 21st of February, Putin orders troops to Ukraine after recognizing breakaway regions. So he's using this as an excuse to invade, saying, oh, we've got to protect these two countries. On the 22nd of February, Germany freezes the Nord Stream 2 gas project, which would be a connection between Russia and Germany. So this is really affecting the monetary bottom line. Also on the 22nd of February, the first wave of EU sanctions on Russia occur. 27 Russians and entities, as well as banks and the defense sector. So that is pushed and sent through. And also on the 22nd of February, the first wave of U.S. sanctions on Russia. Let's see, among other things, they targeted Russian banks and sovereign debt. So yeah, we have an attack on the oligarchs and businesses and Putin. We're pushing back and saying, all right, we're blocking some of this. You need to stop. 23rd of February, Ukraine separatists seek Russian help in repelling aggression from the Ukrainian army. So once again, oh, it's an excuse. We need to go in and protect these states from Ukraine because now we recognize them as the official states. Also on the 23rd of February, Ukraine's parliament approves state of emergency. So yeah, they're already recognizing things are about to go down. And the 24th of February, Russia makes an official invasion into Ukraine. They began missile and artillery attacks on Ukrainian forces and air bases, striking areas in major cities. The 25th, NATO deploys troops in Eastern Europe because all of a sudden Russia's pushing this way, and so, yeah, we have to protect. NATO wants to protect the borders of the countries that are already in NATO. The 25th of February, the invasion continues. They continue with artillery attacks on Ukraine and the Ukrainian capital, Kiev. Zelensky wanting more done because those sanctions were not enough. February 26th, Kiev still in the hands of Ukraine. Germany sends in defensive weapons, 1,000 anti-tank weapons and 500 Stinger surface-to-air missiles. And the West to kick Russian banks out of SWIFT. Now, SWIFT is the Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunication. And essentially it handles a lot of financial international transactions. So yeah. And it even moves to block, it actually moves to block certain Russian banks' access to the SWIFT international payment system. February the 27th, Russians push into Kharkiv, the second largest city in Ukraine. They attack oil and gas installations. February the 28th, human rights groups and Ukraine ambassador accuse Russia of using cluster and vacuum bombs, which have been condemned by a number of international organizations. So, you know, they're weapons of war that most countries agree they won't use. Unfortunately, as is in this case, some countries decide they want to use them anyway. And on March the 1st, attacks continue in Kiev and Kharkiv. So at this point, it's been a week since Russia started the war. 24th, 25th, 26th, 27th, 28th, 1st, today's the 2nd. So officially 1 week. The Ukrainians are continuing to try to hold Kiev, which is the capital, which is the seat of government for Ukraine. So, but Russia is shelling civilian areas in Kharkiv. Since they could not yet seem to take Kiev. So those are the major events that have happened so far. Let's see. Let's take a look at this. Sanctions. Government sanctions. U.S. imposed sanctions on Russia's central bank and other sources of wealth. And like I said, this is based on some information I've found on Reuters. Let's see. Switzerland joined the EU sanctions against Russia, which breaks from its tradition of neutrality, because during a lot of the previous wars, international wars, it's always held, we don't want to get involved. We are neutral, but even in this case, Switzerland is like, yeah, we've got to do something. The EU and Canada banned flights by Russian airlines, prompting Russia to close its airspace to airlines from all EU member states and other countries. Western allies moved to block certain Russian banks' access to the SWIFT system. FIFA and the UEFA suspended Russian teams from international football, international soccer, whichever you prefer to call it. The International Olympic Committee recommended banning Russian and Belarusian athletes from international events. Eurovision Song Contest banned Russia from this year's final. It's one of the largest televised events in the world. BP and Shell said they would exit Russia, when BP is Russia's biggest foreign investor. And Visa and MasterCard blocked Russian financial institutions from their networks. So there's a lot of financial and social sanctions on Russia. So while they may end up decimating Ukraine, this will be something they are going to hurt. Will they survive it? Most likely, but they put themselves in a situation where, was this really worth it? So yeah, it's interesting. One of the things I've been so hesitant about is we should not be seeking war with Russia. We should not do anything that indicates we wish war with Russia. Biden, so far, has been doing what is right in sanctions only. We do not need a no-fly zone, which would be an indication of Russia might take as an act of war. And why am I saying this? Because we do not want a nuclear war. Russia and the U.S. are the two countries with the most nuclear bombs on the planet. This would be, if it were to happen, this would be an exchange that would decimate the U.S., Russia, neighboring countries, and do severe damage to the world's, ecosystem beyond what we have done just trying to make money. So yeah, this was something that actually held the Cold War in place during the time of the Cold War. It was called mutually assured destruction. You have nukes, We have nukes. Don't fire your nukes, or we'll have to fire ours. Unfortunately, we're playing a more deadly game of mad, mutually assured destruction now than happened in the Cold War, because back then neither side wanted to hurt each other. But I think Putin's ego is a little hurt. But unfortunately, we've got senators calling for no-fly zones or more than just sanctions. Honestly, a nuclear war is one thing this planet cannot withstand. One thing we do not need as a planet. But unfortunately, there are people with such egos, like Putin, that he's wanting to achieve reforming what he sees as the greatest extent of Russia, which in the past, much of Eastern Europe belonged to the USSR. So, he would probably seek to take many of these countries. We're talking a ways into Europe. So he would probably seek to take some of these countries back. Even, what was it, Sweden? It's one of the Scandinavian countries that used to be part of Russia. Norway. It's either Finland or Sweden. I never can remember. Used to be part of Russia. So even they would be at risk. And I can guarantee they don't really want to go back to being just a puppet territory. So, yeah. There is a need to be very diplomatic and cautious in the way we approach this. Unfortunately, there are people who are like, no-fly zones! We need to push troops in! No. This is a point in which diplomacy and caution needs to be used. And so far, Biden has done the right thing. Unfortunately, sometimes when he does the right thing, he sometimes shifts gears and goes in the opposite directions, aka Afghanistan. We finally ended that war, and then he's like, let's freeze all their assets. But on this so far, we're going about it the right way, because we do not need a nuclear exchange. That would basically make the Earth unlivable for quite a while. But yeah, I just wanted to give some thoughts on the events in Russia and Ukraine. I think the biggest thing for Putin is he wants NATO away, which he has stated, because before the invasion, Ukraine actually sought intro into NATO. Now it's saying, no, we're not going to do that anymore, but it hasn't ended that. But again, that isn't the only reason. Number two, I know Putin wants to try to recapture the glory days of Russia when it was the Soviet Union, because look at the recent territorial grabs it's made. It invaded the country of Georgia. It took Crimea. It's recognized Donetsk and Luhansk as independent countries, basically chipping away at territory so that they would be something friendly in attempts to re-expand its boundaries. And of course, as I've already stated, some of it's Putin's ego. But yeah, we're looking at an event that may leave Russia in a bad state. I'm at least glad the tactics they are pursuing the oligarchs and Putin himself, and not the citizens, the basic people of Russia. There is no qualms. Again, that's another reason not to have a nuclear exchange. There is no qualms between the average American and the average Russian. I think it's only like, I can't remember where I saw the poll, but it's like only 50% of Russians really support this war. There are even already oligarchs who are telling Putin he needs to stop. He needs to end it. But yeah. Now, that is about it I wanted to say. Like I said, this has been going on for a while. I had to put something out there. As always, educate thyself, think, read, study, learn. Someone tries to tell you something you have trouble believing, ask them to cite their sources. I'll have sources in the video in the description below. I appreciate y'all for watching. Until next time, later.